After that movie, I don't know if I should be excited or worried. Better safe than sorry. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Leo's Nerd Talk, and today we're going to be talking about Civil War. So let's get into that. Now, Civil War is about a press crew on their journey to Washington, D.C. to get an interview with the president before things go a little too far. Now, if you saw my short earlier a couple days ago, you will know that I wasn't really excited for this movie when the first trailer dropped because it looked very silly. It looked like it was going to be a very goofy movie for some reason. And it was mainly because of the actor with the red glasses. Like that whole scene in the first trailer looked very fake. Like I didn't even think this was actually a real movie that was coming out. But as time goes by and you see that trailer more and more, it definitely shows the intensity of what this movie is. And also with some of the early buzz, I was definitely a lot more excited. As you can tell, I was ready for this movie. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the pros for me. And my initial pro is that this movie is just intense throughout the entire runtime. And with only a little bit under a 2 hour long runtime, it definitely has that good pacing. Even the moments where it kind of stops and they're kind of doing a little bit of kind of camping and they're just talking and, on their way to Washington, they take these pit stops and they're talking about the intensity, about what's going on. They're kind of talking amongst each other about how to be a better photographer, how to kind of desensitize yourself with everything that's been going on. You're just trying to get that money shot, and even in those moments, it's very interesting. You're there, you're listening, you're intrigued, you're invested within these characters, and I definitely enjoyed pretty much the entire cast here. Now, of course, we got Mary Jane here from Spider-Man, as well as the actor that plays Pablo Escobar in Narcos. I think both of them did a fantastic job throughout the entire story. I couldn't really tell if they were just kind of a press crew with each other or if they were kind of like a couple or the kind of a thing. It didn't really explicitly say what they were. And it was kind of hard to tell because there's even a moment where they, are on the streets driving and they encounter another press group and they're like, oh, he let us know where you were going when he was flirting with that girl that's in the back when he was drunk. So, and then she's like, oh, you're such an asshole. So I don't know if they were kind of a thing or what was going on there. But besides the point, I do enjoy still having both of them. I think they both did a fantastic job, especially the main actress here. I can't remember her name, but like I said, the one that plays Mary Jane in the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans. I thought she did a great job in kind of showing her emotion and showing how fearless she is in those intense moments, and then towards the end, how a lot of it's starting to get to her, but then she's still trying to go for that money shot. So I thought though that transition of her kind of character throughout the entire film was really awesome, and even with the younger girl here, that she's kind of an inspiring photographer, inspiring journalist. How at first she's very, you know, scared. Everything she's seen is traumatizing her, and how she's progressing towards the end, especially towards the final 5 minutes of this movie. Her character has transitioned so much in the way she is. It's freaking insane and crazy. And that final 5 minutes is so intense and so mind blowing. I also thought that all the visuals, the directing was beautiful here. There were so many shots that just looked so gorgeous, and it's crazy because obviously there's a war going on the entire time, and yet there's shots that are still beautiful. They're still gorgeous to look at. Like one of my favorite ones is they're driving through a forest and the forest is on fire and you see all the ashes and embers coming off the trees as they're driving by, and it's just such a beautiful shot. The way they filmed it, the way they framed it, it was just so many shots within this movie were so beautiful to look at, even with all this disaster and craziness of war happening right behind them. And even in this such an intense movie, there were still some comedy aspects of it that I thought were actually pretty hilarious, and it got a chuckle out of me, and it got a chuckle out of a majority of the audience in the theater. So that was fun to see that even through all this intensity that's going on, there is still some sort of comedic relief that we can have here, and there is still some downtimes to kind of give you a breather from all the intensity, because when you're in it, you're you're clenched up because you have these people that are the press, and it's so funny how the Western Front is like protecting them. Like they let them, be right next to them the entire time. Like they're shooting at the military, and then the press will come out and they'll start shooting their photography, and then the Western Front will grab them like, all right, stand back, I got this. So it's kind of interesting and how intense those moments are where they're just trying to get that nice shot while there's just bullets flying over their head, there's people dying, there's explosions, there's flashbangs, smoke bombs. So there's every time those moments happen, they're just so intense and so much is going on. It's an absolute blast and such a crazy, crazy movie to look at. And one thing that I liked, and I'm not sure if this is a positive or not, but they really captured what something like this would happen in real life. And that is such a crazy thing to even think about. You know, America has had a civil war in the past, years, way, 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 way in the back. And to think something like that happening now with modern technology, with modern weaponry, with just everything, how society is right now, it definitely speaks to that kind of social commentary of where we are, in our current state of just the world. How something like this isn't necessarily too far fetched, and it's kind of terrifying when you really think about it. How stuff like this can happen, and you get into a moment of the movie where you go through this little town that seemingly looks like nothing is going on. They're not being infected, and you see it in the trailer. They asked the lady behind the counter, "Hey, like there's a huge civil war happening." She's like, "We're just trying to stay out of it," and it's crazy to think about it that way, but there's still stuff going on. You look up on the rooftops. There's gunmen up there just watching all the civilians. Yeah, they're staying out of it, but they're still worried, and there's still some sort of kind of tenseness going on, and it's just crazy to think about how something like that could happen, and it could happen, one day after the next, and it is one of those things that is definitely terrifying to think about, and similarly to something like last year, like Oppenheimer, where you think about the power of the nuclear bomb, you just think about the power of just humans and what they're willing to do, what they want to do to take control, take power, feel powerful, and cause something like this to happen in actual society. And that just, I think the movie captured that intensity and that fear beautifully. And speaking of how far people are willing to go, I think with the press, itself, the people that were kind of following, you see their progression and see how far even they're willing to go just to get that money shot, just to get that picture that is going to capture this entire thing that's going on. And you're seeing some of the characters that you wouldn't expect them to try to go this far to get that money shot. And it's just intense where you have all this gunfire and explosions going on, but just the intensity within this kind of little photography press journalist community, how far they're willing to go, how far into danger they're willing to go just to get that shot so they can be exposed and exposing everything that's going on during this civil war. So I thought even that was a pretty intense kind of storyline that they went for. They're not just people taking pictures of the aftermath, they're within the danger, and at any given moment they can get killed, but they're willing to go that far to get that shot. Another thing that I really enjoyed was that throughout the entire time when there's like all these intense moments and gunfights and firefights, that as they're taking pictures, I love how it would, they'll snap a picture and it will go to the still of the picture that they took. Whether it was the black and white pictures or just, the actual professional camera. I just love that throughout the entire moment, it'll just snap for a second and it'll be the picture that they took and it'll snap back into the action. So I really enjoyed how they kind of filmed that. I thought that was such a unique way to do it. And I kind of touched on it briefly towards the beginning, but I really, really enjoyed the way this movie ended. I thought it was just a fantastic ending. There was things where you didn't expect someone to do something like this, and it was just something that like left me in awe, and I was just there like, damn, that's crazy, that's sad, that's intense, but I get it. It works so well, and it goes back to that theme of how far are you willing to go to get the shot, to get what you want. So this was just a magnificent movie, such a crazy intense watch. Highly recommend it. And lastly, I thought just the music that was used throughout the entire movie was pretty good. A good, definitely a good soundtrack. It fits with a lot of things that are going on, and sometimes what's going on screen and what the music is, it's very polar opposite of each other, and I think that elevates what's actually what kind of shown on screen. So I definitely thoroughly enjoyed all the cinematography in this movie. Definitely was a must watch in my opinion. After seeing it now, it was such a beautiful movie, such an intense movie, such a badass, crazy, terrifying movie, if that. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the cons for me. And there's not much here, but although I did enjoy that kind of downtime that you get in between all these intense moments, I do wish we got a little bit more intense moments, and didn't space them out too much because you're, like I say, you're in that moment, you're clenched up, you're extremely intense, and then it just boom cuts, and they're sitting by a bonfire, just talking. There's just music. You don't even hear what they're saying sometimes. It's just music, and then it goes back to the morning time, and they're driving down the road, heading towards Washington D.C. So some of those intense moments get split apart a little bit too much for me, where it could draw back from that intensity. And another thing is sometimes it was difficult to see what forces were in front of you. You obviously had the U.S. government and the military, and then you have the Western Front. But there was some other forces that are a little bit smaller, and it was kind of hard to tell when they were with which one because some of the Western forces were wearing, like Hawaiian shirts and just a bulletproof vest, and other ones were in full military gear. Some of the West Force had full military arsenals and tanks and helicopters. So you never know who they're right next to, but it seems like the press were kind of like in a neutral state. No matter who they were around, it was okay as long as they're just staying out of the way and just taking their pictures. It didn't really matter who they were. To a certain extent, obviously, there's certain moments within the film where they're not welcome in that area, but sometimes it was just a little bit difficult to kind of suss out who they were around. Where was it the Western Front? Was it the U.S. government? Was it another force? That was just one thing where it kind of got a little sloppy in terms of where they were. But that's really it for me. My overall thoughts of this movie was just amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed the entire film. I can definitely see myself watching this so many different times. I absolutely loved it. This is definitely one of the best movies we've gotten so far this year. It's definitely high up on my list. I'm not sure if it's my number one quite yet. I have to kind of gather my thoughts, maybe watch it again, and I'll see from there. But it was definitely a must watch for me. So I definitely recommend go taking a look at Civil War. But make sure to let me know what you guys thought about Civil War in the comment section down below. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and I'd love to see you guys join this Nerd Talk community. And again, if you guys like talking about movies, TV shows, or video game related, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And I'll see you guys on the next review. Thank you.